Oh hi. Luanda, the capital of Angola, the largest political, cultural and financial and industrial center of the state. One of the oldest colonial cities of Africa. Luanda was the main city hosting matches of the Cup of the African Nations of 2010. The Portuguese fortress of St. Michael, an architectural dominant of Luanda. This settlement was founded by the Portuguese colonialist Paulo da Ache de Novais, the grandson of the famous seafarer Bartolomeu da Ache, in 1575 and received São Paulo's name, de Luanda. It is renamed into Luanda in 1975. At the same time, on the rocky cape towering over the city, Fortress San Miguel was constructed. Neighboring lands before capture by the Portuguese belonged to the Kingdom of Andongo, created in the 15th century by the people to Amband. The status of the city of São Paulo de Luanda found in 1605, and at the end of the 16th century the new city became the center of the Portuguese colonial administration and the basis for expansionist forces in Angola. In 1641 Portuguese were forced to concede the outpost on the Atlantic coast to Dutches, but 7 years later returned the territories. During the period from 17th to the 19th century, Luanda was one of the largest centers of a slave trade. From territories subject to Portuguese through Portugal, blacks were taken up. In the 19th century, still being under the power of Portugal, Luanda endured large economic revolution. The slave trade was cancelled in 1836, and in 1844 the ports of Angola were opened for foreign vessels. By 1850 Luanda was one of the largest and most developed Portuguese cities in the extensive Portuguese Empire outside continental Portugal, where it was full of the trading companies exporting palm and peanut butter, waxstock, wood, ivory, cotton, coffee, cocoa and other products. By this time the Angola bourgeoisie arose. In 1889 the governor opened gate of an aqueduct which supplied the city with water, earlier a scarce resource, having laid the foundation for significant growth. During dictatorship of Portugal, known as the New State, Luanda grew from the city with the population of 61208 people, from whom 14.6% were white in 1940, to the rich cosmopolitan large city with the population of 475,328 people in 1970. As well as the most part of the Portuguese Angola, Luanda didn't suffer from the Portuguese colonial war. 1961-1974. Economic growth and development in all region reached record heights for this period. In 1972 in the report Luanda was called by Paris of Africa. In the 20th century Luanda became the center of national liberation fight of the people of Angola. Here often there were collisions with the Portuguese troops. In 1961 the management of People's Movement for Liberation of Angola, MPLI, organized residents of Luanda on a revolt. The armed performance of capital inhabitants served as a signal to start civil war. In April 1974, after a number of revolutionary revolts, the government of Portugal agreed to provide to Angola independence. In November 1975, on the political map of the world there was a new state, the People's Republic Angola. Since August 1992, the Republic of Angola, which capital was Luanda. After declaration of independence, most of white Portuguese went as refugees, generally to Portugal. Since 1978, the largest settlements of Angola repeatedly were exposed to armed attacks from the Republic of South Africa seeking to prevent distribution of communistic influence in the region, and which gave support to the National Union for the Total Independence of Angola. UNITA. In 1991, between representatives of the government of Angola and opposing group of UNITA in Lisbon, the agreement on peaceful settlement of the conflict was signed. Nevertheless, the political situation in the region remained unstable that interfered with fast development of the Angola cities, including Luanda. In 2008, by results of a research of the London consulting company ECA International, Luanda it was the most expensive capital in the world. Among the reasons of high prices, the city infrastructure destroyed by 3 decades of civil war, long delays in processing of freights in port of the city, and also high rates of inflation. The profits of the foreign companies got in Angola due to oil production and diamonds create the increased demand for quality housing, expensive restaurants and cars, footwear and clothes, while most of Angolans lives in extreme poverty. The milk liter in Luanda can cost up to $3, and rent of the small 2-room apartment to $7,000 a month. In 2013, according to Mercer conducting a regular research of cost of life, Luanda was recognized as the most expensive city in the world again, having bypassed on this indicator Moscow and Tokyo. The city is also known as the economic center of oil industry. In the city there is also an oil refinery. The city is founded by the Portuguese colonialists in 1575 and received São Paulo's name, de Luanda, St. Paul's city. In Luanda, where Luanda, the name of the area. The always on the lips one of the local tribes of Luanda, a tribute, a tax. Its name is connected with the fact that beaches in the neighborhood of the city were the place of production of sinks of a cowrie, which from an extreme antiquity and before the beginning of the 20th century were used by natives as means of payment. Luanda holds an advantageous position on the coast of the Atlantic Ocean, around falling of the Kwanza River into him. The climate in this zone tropical, the average annual rainfall of 250, 500, and their most part falls on February, March. The warmest month of year, March, at this time mercury stem of thermometer rises up to +30 C, in July temperature goes down to +16 C, that is in many respects caused by the cooling influence of the Bengalski current. It explains also abnormally dry. For pre-equatorial latitudes. Climate of the city. In the neighborhood of Luanda practically in original state grassy and shrubby savannas remained, numerous palm trees which groves to the south from the capital thin grow here. Behind city boundaries it is possible to meet such wild animals as elephants, lions, leopards, zebras, antelopes, monkeys, however their populations were sharply reduced because of illegal human activity in recent years. Various representatives of water fauna are found in coastal waters. Whales, turtles, mollusks, several species of fish. The downtown is located at the height of 6 m above sea level. Luanda, the largest city of Angola, number of his population. With suburbs. Makes about 4.5 million people. The ethnic structure of the capital is quite various. There live representatives of the African people of Ovimbundu, Mbund, Lund, Chokwe, Ijintuela, Ikuanyama, etc. and also Europeans and the mixed Afro-European population. Capital inhabitants of the African origin use for official negotiations Portuguese, and among themselves, as a rule, in languages to Abo, to Akimband and Umbund, which are gradually pushed aside by Portuguese. 98% of youth in the capital speak only Portuguese. Already on a census of 1983, Portuguese was called by native 75% from the million population of Luanda. The Angolans having the European and mixed origin speak Portuguese, which is state. Many residents of Luanda adhere to traditional local beliefs, also Christians, Catholics and Protestants, Baptists, Methodologists and Independents. Meet. In 1970, 480,613 people lived in the city. By estimates for 2012, the population of Luanda made 2,825,311 inhabitants. The population of Luanda sharply increased in recent years, in many respects thanks to migration to the city in wartime, as the city was a safer place in comparison with the rest of the country. In 2006 in Luanda, increase in number of violent crimes, especially in the slums surrounding a colonial city kernel, was observed. Luanda, the center of cultural development of Angola. Yes, several hundreds of elementary schools with the 8-year term of training work. There are courses of preparation for receipt in technical and pedagogical educational institutions, the giving secondary education. At the University of Agostinho Neto, opened in 1976, it is possible to graduate. Teaching at all schools and the university is conducted in Portuguese. Since 1956 in the city, the Academy of Music works the Museum of Angola, where the collection of natural historical exhibits, and the Museum Dundu, in which historical and ethnographic monuments are stored, is presented. In national and municipal libraries, works by the best African poets and writers, such as Luandino Vieira, Arthur of Pastana dos Santos, Pseudonym Pepetela, and others are collected, and also masterpieces of the world literature are presented. Troops of non-professional actors carry out scenic statements of local authors. In the capital, the best traditions of musical culture and dance remain, and modern popular music of Angola has close connection with musical traditions of Brazil and islands of the Caribbean region. In the city, which development began at the end of the 16th century at walls of the Sir Flock San Miguel, nowadays historical museum, the set of architectural sites remained. From the 17th century there were walls of forts of San Pedro and San Fernando de Pendache here. Transition from Baroque to Classicism found expression in architectural appearance of the central part of Luanda, which is built up as the country Portuguese towns. The main attractions of this part of the capital, Jesuit church. The 16th century. The Temple a Carmelitek. About 1638. Madonna Nazaretskaya's church. 1664. And others. City sidewalks are paved by a delightful mosaic. In 1950, the 1970th year, significant changes were made to the image of the capital. Semicircular building deep into of the continent began, streets were planted with trees, within the city parks and squares were broken. Twin cities. Flag of Brazil of Belo Horizonte, Brazil. Since 1968. Flag of the USA, Houston, the USA. Since 2003. Flag of Brazil, Salvador, Brazil. Flag of Portugal, of Porto, Portugal. Flag of Niger, of Tahua, Niger. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.